Hi, y'all. I'm Samantha, and welcome to Taste and See Creative. Taste and See is about discovering God in everyday life through creating, cooking, learning, and talking and growing together about our faith. God laid this project on my heart several months ago now, and well, really years ago. And I didn't know what it was. And frankly, I'm still trying to figure out what it is. But for now, where I feel him leading me is to create a space where we lean into our creative sides to learn more about his character and his love for us so that we can grow and deepen our relationship with him. So, what we'll be doing on this show is cooking, sometimes baking, sometimes creating floral arrangements, crafting, anything that allows us to create something beautiful and remind us that God is also a creator of beautiful things. Today, we're actually going to be making my oldest son's birthday cake. His birthday is tomorrow, and I have a tradition that I make their birthday cakes. It's something I started and they have come to expect. So, my oldest is always throwing me curveballs. So, we're going to be making a cookie cake today. Y'all, I've never made a cookie cake before, but here we go. Where did I go to find my recipe, which will be linked in the description below? Where I go to find all of my cooking and baking inspiration? Pinterest. So this one is actually from Design Eat Repeat, and again, that link will be below. But here we go. Let's dive in. So the first thing I'm going to do, you notice I've got some ingredients laid out here on the counter. True story. This is not how I typically cook. Okay, I'm doing this for your benefit and to make sure that this video is cohesive. Most of the time, I'm just throwing things in a bowl as I go through the recipe, but I've actually taken the time to lay things out today, again, to make it go a little more smoothly. So what I'm going to do first is I just have a whole stick of butter here in this bowl. It's a glass bowl, microwave safe bowl, and we're just going to pop it in the microwave for about 35 seconds. We'll see how that goes because we need melted butter for this recipe. So let's do that first. Okay, we'll get that going. And the next thing we need to do is chop some chocolate chips. So this is going to be a chocolate chip cookie cake. And it calls for a cup of chocolate chips. Half of those need to be chopped. So I've got a little more than a half a cup here. And what I had on hand was the mini chocolate chips. So they're already quite small. I'm just going to roughly chop these because the point is you just want that chocolate to get through the dough. You don't want there to be big globs of chocolate in your cookie as you're eating it because that doesn't taste good. Well, actually, it might taste really good, but it's super messy. Check on that butter. And the oven is preheated. So I've been preheating the oven to 350. That's what we're going to bake on today. Show you what this looks like here. On the butter. Butter's good. We just needed it kind of melting. So here we go. We're just going to chop some of these a little bit. We've got our melted butter here. Just making them a little smaller again so that that chocolate disperses throughout the cake and we don't end up with big clumps of chocolate. So although that might be tasty, it will be messy and it will also make the cookie more likely to break, so I have read. Okay, so this feels like good enough to me. There we go. All right, so the next thing that we're going to do is combine this butter, move some things around here. We're going to take our butter
And we have 2 types of sugar in this recipe. So the first type of sugar we have is our brown sugar, just packed light brown sugar. And this is about 1/2 cup with that nice and packed. And then we have a 1/4 cup of just white granulated sugar, regular old sugar. We're going to stir this together. We're not mixing this, just stirring it to get it incorporated, get that butter and that sugar in there. And there we go. Perfect. That's good. Now the next thing we're going to do is add our egg, which is, there it is. I couldn't see it behind the bowl. We're gonna add an egg. Now I've had this egg sit out for, I don't know, it's probably been out about an hour or so. Just so it will come to room temperature. Yikes! See, look at that, y'all. We do not want eggshell in our chocolate chip cookie cake. All right, put this away. And we're also going to add our 1½ teaspoon of vanilla mix. So I've got a 1/2 teaspoon here, and what I'm going to do is 3 of these, right? Because we want 1½ do our math. Here we go. I found this fancy Baker's vanilla. I don't know exactly what's different about it, but it makes me feel fancy when I bake with it. All right, so that's 1 teaspoon and a half. There's that. The other thing we need is a 1/2 teaspoon baking soda and a 1/4 teaspoon of baking powder and a pinch of salt, about a 1/4 teaspoon. So 1/2 teaspoon of baking soda. Here's my baking soda. Just, you know, good old baking soda, regular old baking soda from the Walmart. Here we go. Baking soda. That's the 1/2 teaspoon there. Do the 1/4 teaspoon of baking powder and a pinch of salt. So I already have my salt measured out in the 1/4 teaspoon, and I need that. So we're gonna go ahead and dump that in. Baking powder. Okay. Now we're gonna mix. And since the instructions use that word mix, and previously it used the word stir, I am going to use my mixer. Just getting all of that yummy sugar off the spoon here. We want every bit of that flavoring our cake. So here's that mixer. This mixer my husband got for me a couple of years ago, when the mixer I've been using since I was in college, that was a long time ago, just stopped working well. It was not powerful enough. This cordless one is amazing. Highly recommend it. Let's get it on though. Put that in the mix. Okay, that's that. Now we're gonna add in our 1½ cups of flour. So I've got 1 cup here, 1/2 cup here. Now we're gonna mix it again.
till our flour disappears. We need some more power. All the flour to the edge of the bowl. All right,
That's our cookie dough.
so our next step, now that we've got our flour incorporated into our dough, is to add in these chopped chocolate morsels that we got a little while ago. So we're gonna just dump these in. And since this was about half a cup, ooh, I've got some chocolate dust on the bottom there. It was doing something. We're gonna add a few more. I love these little glass jars. Another thing that makes me feel fancy. All right, I think that's enough. Ooh. Ooh. I think that's enough chocolate chip. What do you think? We're gonna mix again. So here we go. Okay, cool. Now we're at the part where we're going to start flattening it in our pan. This is an example of maybe an Amazon purchase fail. I was looking for a cookie cake pan, which I've never used or seen before. And what this is actually a pizza pan. So we're going to see how this works. I'm not really sure how this is going to go down, but we're going to give it a try. What I'm most concerned about is that the cookie's going to get too spread out and we're not going to get any kind of definition along the edge. So I'm going to try and hedge for that in the way that I spread it. But before I do that, I'm just taking some Crisco and I'm going to grease this pan to make it a little easier for us to get the cookie off after it's done cooking. I just got a paper towel, threw some Crisco on there, and I'm just going to rub it around the pan. Because again, I just want it to be nice and greasy. Now that we've done that, I'm pulling out my ice cream cookie scoop, and I'm just going to put some dollops around the pan. They don't have to be pretty because we're getting ready to press it out anyway. There we go. So I mentioned my oldest son, which implies that I have more than one son, and I do. I'm a boy mom of 2 boys. My youngest is still in preschool. And if you're like me, most days you're juggling work, home logistics, the household, dinner, laundry and dishes, dear Lord, laundry and dishes, and you know, desperately trying to remember what in the world it was you came into that room for. If that's how you're feeling, you're not alone. I feel like that a lot. And over the last year and a half, God's been teaching me a lot about rest. A year and a half because some of us are more hard-headed than others. Apparently there was a lot I needed to learn, and he still continues to show me things about rest. In particular, the way that I tend to carry all of my responsibilities on my own. And that might resonate with you. You might be experiencing the same thing. I haven't figured out exactly how to let everything go yet, but I'm getting there. And one of the things we'll be tackling first in this video series is rest, specifically starting with Matthew 11:28, where God says, "Come to me, all who are weary and burdened, and I will give you rest." So in subsequent videos, we're going to unpack this idea of rest and especially what it means for those of us who are juggling momhood and work and home and just juggling all the things. Okay, so I've got my dollops of cookie dough all over the pan here. As you can see, lost one. It's okay, counter's clean. What I'm going to do is press it down now onto the pan because we want it to be flat because it's going to be a cookie, right? And we want to also look to make sure we don't have too many clumps of chocolate pieces, gummed up anywhere in the dough, because again, it's going to make the dough more likely to break, and we want a more even chocolate dispersion in our dough. So what I'm doing as I'm flattening this is also kind of making a bit of a rim, again, so that there's an edge, like it feels more like a cake and less like a giant cookie, although technically that's exactly what it is. It's a giant cookie. And because this is relatively small, this pan, it says it's an 11-inch pan, but I think it's more like 10.5 inches. Since it's kind of small, I'm also going to make some cupcakes, and then that way kiddos who don't want cookie have another alternative. But that might be my work for tonight or tomorrow morning. I can put the boys to work on that and get them to help me make cupcakes. They're really good with that. And I think I'm going to make a shortcut. Normally I make my own cake batter. Tomorrow I happen to have 2 boxes of cake mix, and I think we're just going to go with those. It'll be all good. All right. So we've got this now on the pan. I've got a bit of a curve, a lip here. See that? Looks pretty cool, huh? Let's pop it in the oven and see what happens. We're supposed to cook it for, it says, about 12 to 14 minutes. So what I'm going to do, I always split the difference. I'm going to start with 13 and see what happens. So while the cookie's baking in the oven, I thought I would share a little bit more about what God's been laying on my heart in this season of my life. When you are juggling things like family and home and friends and faith, it can feel overwhelming. I often feel like I'm behind, that I'm not doing enough, but I'm doing too much at the same time. And life just never stops. There's always something coming at us. And it can be really overwhelming at times. As women, we carry a lot. We carry a lot for our families. We carry a lot for our spouses. We carry a lot for our extended family, for our church. And God has really been showing me that I have been carrying it alone, and that was never His design. So in Matthew 11:28, where God says, "Come to me, all who are weary, and I will give you rest," that's an invitation to connect with Him, an invitation to partner with Him, to do more than we could ever do on our own, and to find the strength that we don't have by ourselves. So over the next few videos, we will be talking more about rest and thinking practically about what it means to surrender. What does it look like to allow God to give you rest? What does biblical rest mean?
how do we put it into practice in our lives? One of the very first things God taught me was rest isn't passive. It's not about sitting on the couch and throwing your feet up. Although, ladies, we need to do that too sometimes. Um, it's different, right? There's an active component in that we are partnering with Jesus, and we'll talk more about what that means in future videos. But for now, I just want to say that if you're a busy mom and this is resonating with you and you feel like you've been carrying things in your own strength and you found the right place, you found the right community, I hope that this is a place where you feel authentically heard and seen, and you also see and recognize um, yourself and a little bit of my story, and that what God is teaching me is also helpful to you as you're seeking to grow more in your walk with Him and your relationship with Him, but also seek to serve your family well, and steward the ministry of your family well. So thank you for joining us today. I look forward to seeing you next time. I think our next Taste and See episode will feature some banana bread and some banana nut bread. So if you're a banana bread kind of gal, then I look forward to getting in the kitchen with you again and creating something wonderful. So as soon as that cookie comes out of the oven, we'll show you what that looks like. Well, welcome back, everybody. Here is our cookie cake that has come out of the oven. It's still warm, so we're gonna let that cool, but it looks really good to me. I think it turned out just fine. And so as we wrap up today, I wanna end with a prayer for Taste and See. And that prayer is that God will use this space to encourage you, to remind you that you're not alone, that He is always with you, and that you are deeply loved. You're a daughter of the King, the Most High God, who loves you so very much. I hope that this space draws you closer into relationship with Him, and that together we learn more about how to trust God in our everyday life. So thanks for joining, and I hope to see you next time on Taste and See Creative. Hey y'all, welcome back. So the cake is finished. Here's what it looks like. Yeah. Truth be told, I ended up not making the buttercream. I was and am exhausted. It's after 9 o'clock. I still need to wrap gifts and make up goodie bags for tomorrow. So you know what, mamas? Sometimes it's okay to cut corners because you got a lot on your plate. This is a perfect example. He loved it. He's happy with it. He didn't care that the frosting came from a container. So good night, and can't wait to see you next time on Taste and See.